The most powerful people in the room are usually the ones saying the least. In 17th century Spain, a Jesuit priest named Baltasar Gracián watched the royal court closely. He saw politicians talk themselves out of positions, saw nobles reveal too much and lose their advantage, saw people destroy their own power by not knowing when to shut up. And he wrote down something most people never understand, that silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. That the less you say, the more control you have. That every word you speak gives away power, information, and leverage. And the people who understand this, who master the art of strategic silence, they're the ones who actually win. Not the loud ones, not the ones always talking. The quiet ones who speak only when it matters. Here's what ruins most people's leverage in any situation. They talk too much. They explain when they shouldn't. They reveal when they should conceal. They fill silence with words just because silence feels uncomfortable. And every unnecessary word they speak weakens their position, gives away information, shows their hand, makes them predictable. And predictable people lose power. Gracián watched this constantly. Someone would be winning a negotiation. Then they'd keep talking and talk themselves into a worse position. Someone would have leverage. Then they'd explain their reasoning and give away exactly how to counter them. Someone would have mystery and allure. Then they'd overshare and become ordinary. All because they couldn't handle silence. Couldn't resist the urge to fill space with words. But the people who won, they spoke less. They let silence do the work. They understood that silence creates pressure, makes others uncomfortable, forces them to fill the void. And when others are talking to fill silence, they're revealing. They're giving away information. They're showing weakness. While the silent person is observing, learning, maintaining leverage. Gracián wrote, "The wise man says nothing, and the fool tells everything." Why? Because every time you speak, you're revealing something. Your thoughts, your position, your strategy, your weaknesses. And you can't take it back. Words, once spoken, are weapons in someone else's hands. But silence reveals nothing. Protects everything, maintains mystery, keeps you in control. Think about negotiations. The person who speaks first usually loses. Why? Because they've shown their position before seeing the other sides. They've revealed what they want, what they'll accept, what their limits are. And now the other side has information to use against them. But the person who stays silent forces the other side to speak first, to show their cards, to give away leverage. Silence is power in negotiation. Always. Or think about conflicts. Someone attacks you with words. Your instinct is to defend, to explain, to counter. But Gracián would say that's often the wrong move. Because by defending, you're validating their attack. By explaining, you're giving them more ammunition. By countering, you're staying engaged in a fight that benefits them. But silence makes them uncomfortable, makes their attack fall flat, makes them look aggressive while you look composed. You win without fighting. He also taught about silence preserving mystery. He said, a little reserve can add much prestige. If people can't quite figure you out, they respect you more. They attribute more depth to you than you might actually have. But the moment you overshare, the moment you explain everything, you lose that mystique. You become ordinary, known, predictable, and predictable people don't command respect. This is why leaders often speak less, not because they have nothing to say, but because saying less makes each word more valuable. If you talk constantly, people tune you out. But if you're generally quiet and then speak, people listen. Your words carry weight because they're rare. That's strategic silence. using scarcity to create value. Gracián also warned about revealing your intentions. He said, "Don't tell people what you're going to do. Just do it." Why? Because once you announce your plans, you've given others time to interfere, time to counter, time to steal your idea. But if you work in silence and reveal only results, you maintain control of the entire process. Think about how many times you've told people your plans and then either didn't follow through or had someone discourage you or compete with you. That's the cost of revealing too much. But if you work quietly and let your results speak, you avoid all that. Silence protects your process, lets you work without interference. Then you reveal only what you've already accomplished, when it's too late for anyone to stop you. There's also power in silence during listening. Gracián taught that the person asking questions controls the conversation, not the person answering. When you're silent and asking, you're directing. You're gathering information. You're learning. But when you're talking and explaining, you're being directed. You're giving information. You're teaching them how to handle you. Most people think whoever talks most controls the conversation. But it's the opposite. The person talking least, asking most, listening most, they're the one in control. They're gathering intelligence while giving away nothing. That's asymmetric power, and it comes from strategic silence. Now let's make this practical, because you're probably talking too much. In negotiations, in conflicts, in conversations, and it's costing you power and leverage. Start noticing when you speak out of discomfort, when you fill silence just because it feels awkward. That's when you're giving away power for nothing. Practice sitting in silence. Let others feel the pressure to fill it. Watch what they reveal when they do. That information is valuable. But you only get it by staying silent. Also notice when you explain unnecessarily, someone challenges you. Your instinct is to justify yourself, but often you don't need to. Your silence can be answer enough. Or a simple statement without explanation. The less you explain, the less ammunition you give. The less they understand your position, the less they can counter you. Here's a practice. In your next important conversation, try to speak half as much as you normally would. Ask more questions. Give shorter answers. Let silence sit instead of rushing to fill it. Watch what happens. You'll notice people reveal more. You'll notice you feel more in control. You'll notice your words carry more weight because there are fewer of them. Gracián also taught about silence protecting your emotions. He said, "He who speaks too much reveals what he feels." And revealed emotions are exploitable emotions. If people know what triggers you, what upsets you, what excites you, they can manipulate you. But if you're silent about your emotional state, you're protected. You're unreadable. And unreadable people are hard to manipulate. This doesn't mean suppress your emotions. It means don't broadcast them unnecessarily. Don't tell everyone how you feel about everything. That information becomes a weapon in their hands. Keep your emotional state private. Maintain composure. Let your silence hide what you're actually thinking and feeling. That's armor. Another key point. Silence forces others to project. When you don't explain yourself, people fill in the gaps with their own assumptions. And often, those assumptions make you look better than the truth would. They assume depth where there might be simplicity. Assume strategy where there might be accident. Assume wisdom where there might be uncertainty. Why correct them? Let them believe the better version. Your silence created that. Your explanation would destroy it. This is why the mysterious person often seems more impressive than the open person. Not because they actually are more impressive, but because their silence allows others to imagine them as impressive. while the open person shows all their flaws, doubts, and ordinary humanity. Silence curates perception. Speech reveals reality, and often, the perception is more valuable. But here's the balance. Gracián wasn't saying, never speak. He was saying, speak strategically. Speak when it matters. Speak when your words will have impact. Speak when the silence has done its work, and now words are needed to close the deal. Make the point, establish the boundary. But don't speak just to speak. Don't fill silence from discomfort. Don't explain from insecurity. Every word should serve a purpose. And if it doesn't, don't say it. The most powerful people understand this instinctively. They speak less. Not because they're shy, because they're strategic. They know that words lose value through overuse. That silence builds tension and anticipation. That mystery creates respect. That not explaining makes them less vulnerable. That speaking only when necessary makes each word count for more. Gracián lived in a world where one wrong word could ruin you, where courtiers were always listening for something to use against you, where revealing too much could mean losing everything. So he learned to be strategically silent, to speak when necessary and stay quiet otherwise. And that discipline gave him power beyond his position. You don't face the same dangers, but the principle still applies. Every unnecessary word weakens you. Every overshare gives ammunition. Every explanation shows your cards. And silence does none of that. Silence protects, preserves, positions, and creates power that talking never could. So the question is, can you handle it? Can you sit in uncomfortable silence? Can you resist the urge to explain? Can you let mystery work in your favor? Can you speak less and listen more? Can you make your words rare enough to be valuable? That's the power of silence. Not in never speaking, but in speaking only when it matters. And staying quiet the rest of the time. The most powerful people in the room aren't the loudest, they're the quietest. Because they understand what Gracián understood, that silence is strategy, that every word costs, and that sometimes saying nothing says everything. Subscribe for more subtle power moves.